Paul, for the chance, and all protocols observed. Good morning. Now, from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics perspective, I'm really excited that we have gone this far, and we are at a point that we are now having 2 reports to launch. These 2 reports are actually coming from a data mining process, taking note of the fact that undertaking surveys would require a lot of resources, and once done, we do not just depend on the basic reports that are produced. And so we decided to go ahead together with a number of partners and supported by development partners to come up with the child vulnerability report together with the women economic empowerment report, so that we are able to see deeply what the data talks about. And it's also a question of triangulation of information, where we are able to get from different reports data that had been done earlier to help us get to where we are today. And it brings out a number of salient issues which should be addressed by the county government, the national government, and all partners that are keen on the topic that we're dealing with today. And so from our end, it's a question of how well do you utilize that information that has been generated. 2, we get encouraged when we see progress made arising from data that we are producing. 3, we keep on updating the data that we are producing so that at any given time, we have reliable information to utilize. And for that matter, we have heard of 2022 Kenya Demographic and Health Survey. I know continuing to do DHS in Kenya would require a different approach, having had USAID going off, and that was the main funding institution. But we have also made good progress to bring on board a number of partners to come up with what we call the mini DHS, which we are going to conduct this year. We are actually at the stage of doing the pilot, after which we'll now embark on the main exercise. We have Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also coming in to support the process. And so we are confident that within the year, we'll be able to get fresh information related to the demographic and health survey. On top of that, we are also working on the Kenya Integrated Household Budget Survey, which has already taken off. We are on our third week of data collection, and we hope that in the next 1 year we shall be through with the data collection, so that we can now analyze the report, and that will also be very rich, and we'll be able to mine a lot of information on various aspects, including poverty. So I would want to stop it at that. Thank you so much, Paul.
of this organization cannot be realized without finances. Remember, the theme of this segment, finances for success, for equity, inclusion, and therefore, the chair of the National Assembly Budget Committee, President Honorable Khan, is here with us today. Very well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we want to move to the second publication. Changes now, this publication, the sharing with you a comment written about the second publication. Okay. And on a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Down.
Women's empowerment in Kenya, developing a measure. The women's empowerment in Kenya, developing a measure. Thank you so much, the chief guests. Thank you so much, all the dignitaries, P.S. Karine, Gabby, Paul, Professor, the chair of KIPRA board, McDonald, the author and the leader of this, Asante Sana, the CEO, National Gender and Equality Commission, who has a lot to do to monitor how these reports are implemented, the acting director, executive director, KIPRA as well, Dr. Simiyu as well, who provided all the technical support, everyone else who is seated with us. Thank you so much for being part of this historic moment when you are launching 2 publications on reducing vulnerabilities among women and children. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You may take your seat. And now invite the guests to resume and take their positions. We thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, you okay? Okay. Thank you so much, the chief guests. Thank you so much, all the dignitaries. Thank you so much, UNICEF, UN Women, KIPRA, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics as well. Now, you may notice that the program that we have used is completely different from what we shared this morning or yesterday. I've learned vidu vijanganga, meaning that things can change anytime. It's for good reasons that some of the esteemed dignitaries and guests that were supposed to be in this forum had other engagements, very urgent engagements, and we had to adjust ourselves and understand, and please pardon us, and we ask you to understand the circumstance in which we were working on this morning. Now, we get back to the program, and there is a common saying by Edward Deming's mathematician and statisticians: in God we trust, everyone must bring data. So at this particular moment, we are going to hear more about numbers. It's going to speak to the report that you have launched. It's going to speak to everything that has been spoken before by the various speakers who stood here, including His Excellency Professor Peter Nyang'nyong'o and Gabby as well, the peace as well, and the chair of KIPRA board, and what Dr. McDonald as well has alluded to. So at this moment, allow me to invite the acting executive director of KIPRA to come and make a technical presentation, Dr. Ali. And after that, we are going to have a panel that is going to reflect on her presentation. I invite you to take keen interest and attention to her presentation. I truly believe she has made it very simple for us to understand. Karibu sana, Daktari.
We proceed with the presentation, and this is work that has been done with support from the various institutions, right from the support from our State Department for Economic Planning, UNICEF, UN Women, World Bank, KIPRA, KNPS, and other institutions. Why invest in people? As we have been told right from the beginning, Kenya is one of the lucky nations, whereby over 75.1% of our population is aged 0 to 34 years. And we know that going forward, most of the people who are going to work, not only in Kenya, but in the world, are coming from Africa. Hence, if we have to sustain our development, we need to look at how do we invest in the key sectors that relate to social protection and also that relate to national disparities that have to be addressed. When we look at the analysis that has been done, we find that from the Women Development Index and also the fiscal incidence analysis and also the analysis on the financial spending for the period from 2013 up to 2024, the analysis shows that as a nation, we need to put more emphasis and more effort on how we finance the sectors that are driving the economy. And here, the social sectors are quite important because as the GDP has expanded from 2014 up to 2022, the levels of poverty have not declined in the equal measure. Further, there is disconnect in terms of the inequalities across the regions and also across the counties. The dimensions that drive the spending and also that lead to the deprivations that we see relate to the following. First, the dimensions where children are most deprived are in sanitation, housing, water, and also in the living conditions. The analysis shows that where we have low levels of nutrition, we have low levels of well-being, which then means higher levels of deprivation. The other indication we have from this analysis is that multidimensional poverty levels increased between 2024 and 2025. The arid and semi-arid counties, where counties like Mandera, Turkana, Tana River had higher levels of poverty and multidimensional deprivations. We have hidden drivers of deprivations among children, and this relates to the level of education of the mothers. We also have the levels of persons with disabilities, whereby if a child is in a household where we have a person with disability or a mother with a low level of education, those have higher chances of being deprived. We also find that only 40.6% of Kenyan women are empowered, with major gaps by location, wealth, education, and also the marital status. The rural areas have higher levels of deprivation because in urban areas and also where we have women with higher income and more educated persons, then we have lower levels of deprivation. When it comes to health spending by category, and here we are looking at health, water, sanitation, and hygiene, it is quite evident that as a nation, these are sectors that we need to invest more so that we are able to reduce the disparities and deprivations that we are experiencing. When it comes to education, and here we have analyzed the pre-primary education and areas of social protection, it is evident that as a nation, we need to spend more in the foundations and the needs of children right from the early years because they've been found to have more benefits and better outcomes even at higher education and also at tertiary levels. In social protection, here it is to counter the effects of deprivations and for counties and regions to catch up, then this is an area of intervention so that we are able to get those who have been left behind to catch up with those who are ahead. And that's why most of the programs like the Inua Jamii comes in very handy. Under nutrition has a share of spending, as well as nutrition spending as a percentage of GDP, we find that the curve has flattened. What then that means is, despite the importance of spending on nutrition, the level of prioritization is still very low. And this is an area where we are advocating for more investments so that we are able to break the cycle of poverty and also improve human capital development in totality and eliminate any inequalities that come along with low nutrition and related deprivations, as well as putting more emphasis on education, health, and child development. The analysis further shows that when we spend less in the lower levels of schooling, it has long-term effects in the higher levels of education. This is because the children who are not covered in pre-primary education, for instance, they will not be able to progress to higher education, and hence, when we are spending in higher education, the people who will benefit at that level are from the higher income groups who will have managed to have their children go through the full cycle right from the pre-primary, primary, secondary, all the way up to tertiary education. Then what is the call for action from this work? The first call for action is to invest in early childhood development for inclusive growth. And this covers right from the first 1,000 years of development to pre-primary, primary, secondary, and ensuring that as our young people graduate from education, they are able to link to employment and the systems for transition from schooling to employment, which also relates to empowerment, have to be strengthened both at national and county levels. The second call for action is to expand social protection, to reduce child poverty and build human capital for the nation and ensure that no one is left behind. Finally, we need to continue mobilizing more resources for social protection and also the social sectors so that we are able to have inclusive social transformation for our nation that fuels economic development and sustained growth. Thank you.
Wow. Let's give her a round of applause. We can do better than that. I can hear you. Dr. Elda Onsomu, she is the acting executive director for KIPRA. And the numbers we have and the story is narrated. We are getting into an important session where we're going to have a reflection on what Dr. Elda has presented, a reflection on what the other speakers have presented to us. And at this moment, allow me to get into that session. We're going to have a few speakers who are going to, or a panel. I'm going to invite them, and you'll join me in welcoming them onto the stage so that they can reflect and give us a few thoughts. The first one is CPA PS Karine Agengo. She is the Principal Secretary at the State Department for Children's Services under the Ministry of Gender. Please join me in welcoming Madam PS Karine to the floor. I presume that the full bio and profile shall be screening and printing onto the wall. Karibu sana PS. You may take the front, one of these, the center. Okay. Thank you so much. The next is Madam Mendi Jonjo. She's the director of KCB Foundation. Please join me in welcoming Madam Mendi Jojo. Karibu sana, Madam Mendi. We had invited the World Bank as well. They are not able to join us because of various reasons. And so we pass the apologies to the participants who are present in here. We had also invited an expert from public policy. He's a public policy specialist. Due to unavoidable circumstances, he had to travel yesterday back to Nairobi, but had presented and prepared his responses to the questions that we had wanted to ask him. And therefore, I'm going to invite Madam Wangoi Karanja, who is the chief of UNICEF Kisumu Field Office. She's going to be reading the responses of that specialist, and therefore we cannot direct questions to her. She can only take comments, and she can take them back to the author of the responses. Let's give them another round of applause. Okay, we may begin, and I'm going to start by a few questions. Some of the questions will be preceded by a commentary or a statement to put things into the context. So that will take some time, but I will ask all the panelists to take note of their questions and then take a moment and move on to the reflections. I'll start with the CPAPS. I'm careful about the pronunciation of her first name. She reminds me, Screen. Now, given the significant number of children who live in multidimensional poverty, about 55% actually, equivalent to 12 million children, what specific programs is the government of Kenya implementing to caution the most vulnerable children? That would be my first question. Allow me to take you to the second question. Is that fair? And then you put it all together because they are somewhat related. I'll start with a hook statement. The government of Kenya made a commitment to expand the coverage of households receiving cash transfers to 2.5 million by 2027. So far, the government has done very well by reaching 1.7 households in 2025 and indeed meeting the target for the period. However, children are not adequately covered. The government midterm plan target is reaching 741,000 children by 2027, with 2025 coverage being about 442,000 children. P.S. There is a gap. Okay. Our apologies, but we are good. Thank you. But P.S. there's a gap of about 299,000 orphans and vulnerable children that needs to be covered by 2027. With that statement, then I have two questions for you, PS. What plans does the government have to cover the 299,000 OVCs gap by 2027? And then two, which is related to my first question, what measures is the government putting in place to ensure adequate financing for the coverage of children and sustaining the same in the long term? Karibu sana, Madam PS.
Thank you very much. And first of all, allow me to sincerely thank the KIPRA team together with the ministry for putting up a very good report that we have just launched, because this report is part of evidence that can help us in planning and budgeting for children. And I'm glad that we are having the chair of the budget committee in this discussion, because his office is critical when it comes to matters of budgeting for children. Now, looking at the statistics, that children form about 42% of our population. First of all, I want to say that the government has taken a critical step in establishing a department that is now taking care of children. You note that this department was not in place until this year in April. And so that is one step that the government has taken, having looked at the past surveys that have been done on matters affecting children and seen that we need to first establish an office that purely takes care of children. And that is one good step that I can say the government has done. Next, the government also appreciates that we have vulnerable children in this nation. And one significant program that the government has taken is to have a cash transfer for the orphans and vulnerable children, currently reaching 442,000, as you have indicated, as of 2025. And this program stabilizes various incomes for households, improving children's access to health, nutrition, and education. However, we note there is a gap, and I will be addressing that in the next question. So this program has seen great impact on the children, retaining the children in the schools, and allowing their caregivers to provide for their food. And it is hoped that with this program, we should be able to address the poverty that is affecting orphans and vulnerable children. In addition to the cash transfer, the government also has a nutritional improvement program through cash and health education. We are calling it Niche, and Niche is a Cash Plus program that has been already piloted in 5 counties based on statistics showing high poverty levels in these counties. And these are counties of Kitui, we have Marsabit, we have West Pokot, Turkana, and Kilifi. If you looked at the report that was just launched, these are the counties that are deeply affected by poverty. And so the first pilot was done in these counties through a cash plus transfer to be able to take care of mothers who are pregnant and also children who are below 36 months. Why below 36 months? Because this is the age where a child develops. And why pregnant mothers? That a child develops from the mother's womb. If you don't take care of the nutrition of the mother, by the time the child is born, the child's development will already be affected. Therefore, this program acknowledges that the development cycle of a child starts from when a child is conceived. And we are planning to roll out additional, this program to additional counties. And the next phase will be 20 counties, which have already been mapped based on the poverty index of these counties. Therefore, if you look at the report we have just looked at, the government is already focusing on an evidence-based approach to address the needs of the vulnerable. I also want to say that we are also looking at reaching at least 100,000 children with this program by 2027. And this will be able to address nutrition and also education of the mothers of the young children so that they appreciate, use their local resources to improve on nutrition of these children. And that will have a multiplier effect when it comes to growth of children and consequently building our economy in the future. Through the Ministry of Education, the government also has put in place a school feeding program, and the chair of the budget committee here will confirm that this year the government has allocated 3 billion towards school feeding program. And this is mainly targeting again the ASAL region, because looking at again the statistics we've just seen, this is the area that is mostly affected, and also in informal settlements in the urban centers. So this will enhance school attendance, because you saw education is one of the key areas that where these where vulnerable children are mostly affected. So there will be increased school attendance, and also food will ensure cognitive development for food insecure children. In addition to that, the government also has in place a presidential bursary program, and this is targeting 22,300 needy learners in the secondary schools, especially children from the vulnerable families and mainly orphans. And one thing I want to say about this program is to ensure the school transition into the secondary school and also retention of these children in the secondary school. My comment on the issue of bursary, and it is one thing that we can deliberate on, that we do have various sources of disbursing the bursaries. We have the counties disbursing bursaries, we have the Ministry of Education, we have the CDF, and we do also have the presidential bursary. So my suggestion, as we are discussing today, that we need to have one single point, because we have targeted the vulnerable group. We have a system in place where we have a children officer all the ground to the sub-county level who are able to identify the vulnerable groups through the chiefs. And therefore, if we use one system for disbursing this bursary, we'll be able to create a greater impact, and also it will ensure accountability is enhanced when it comes to bursary. So that is one thing that I would pass to, especially the budget committee and also our various institutions when it comes to even amending the laws to provide for one channel for disbursing the bursaries. Now, the government, recognizing that we also do have homeless families, has put in place Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund to take care of children living in the streets. And this fund ensures these families are rescued from the streets, rehabilitated, and reintegrated back to the society. And this is one successful program where since 2018, we established there were about 46,000 families living in the streets. And so far, more than 11,300 street families have been reintegrated back to the society, while additional 20,000 are ongoing rehabilitation. It's a process that requires a lot of engagement, supporting these families through psychosocial support to bring them on board to accept that they can go back to this society. Therefore, this is also one key area, because anybody living in the streets is a vulnerable person. In addition, the government also has established a system for tracking vulnerable children, be it children in the emergencies. We do have what we call the Child Protection Information Management System that can track and locate where a child in need of danger or in emergency situations is rescued. And we monitor through data tracking and giving support in cases of emergencies like floods and fires. And this is also a system that helps in dealing with vulnerability when it comes to children. And the last program that I would like to talk about is we are rolling out this financial year a program to address adolescents, because we have established that there's a problem of teenage pregnancy in this nation. 15% of our girls are exposed to teenage pregnancy. And therefore, through our Kenya Socio-Economic Inclusion Program, we are rolling out a program in the near 3 months on teenage pregnancies. This is a partnership we are having with the World Bank, and we are hoping, again, we are targeting Samburu, Marsabit, Turkana, Migori, Bungoma, Kilifi, Tana River, Wajir, Mandera. Why I want to mention these are areas that we have established the high prevalence of teenage pregnancy, and we shall escalate this to cover about 60,000 adolescents with a view of giving them first an opportunity to go back to school, to enhance the education, and also giving psychosocial support when it comes to mental health, and also giving them life skills so that they can be economically empowered. You saw the report, when a woman is empowered, the child is also empowered, and poverty rate will come down. So those are the programs that the government is doing to support the vulnerable society.
Thank you so much, Madam PS. I've counted like 6 interventions. Interesting. And we hope that those interventions are going to cover the gap of in excess of 299,000 OVCs. Now, I turn to Mandy Jojo. She's the director of KCB Foundation. And Mandy, Kenya's constrained fiscal space is currently constrained by the shrinking donor funding that has been instrumental in financing some of the key programs. The Kenya's net official development assistance and official aid received in 2022 was about 2.73 billion US dollars, a decrease from 3.18 billion US dollars and 4.22 billion US dollars received in 2021 and 2020 respectively. Now, with this shrinking official development assistance, rising debt obligations, and persistent poverty among children and vulnerable communities, the need for innovative, sustainable, and inclusive financing strategies is urgent. Philanthropy, and that's a background that you have when I read your profile, especially the homegrown like KCB Foundation, will increasingly need to play a stronger role in supporting local government. I trust and believe you agree with me. I have 2 questions for you, Madam Medi. What specific factors could be put in place for philanthropy like KCB Foundation to expand the footprint in supporting service delivery and development in Kenya? And 2, given that decline in official development assistance, in your view, what innovative financing mechanisms do you think Kenya can adopt to promote domestic resource mobilization to sustainably fund social sectors like health, education, social protection, and many others that fall within the social sector spectrum? Over to you, Madam Medi.
Thank you for your question. Good morning, everyone. So you are indeed right that aid is in decline. Anyone who's been watching what's been happening with USAID as well as other donors, we know that we're in a world where a lot of the philanthropic capital that has been flowing towards social services is on the decline. And one of the things that has also become very clear to anyone who's in this space is that this is an opportunity not just to try and do the same thing with less, but to really rethink how it is that we deploy and use capital. So to answer your question, some of the ways that KCB Foundation, as well as also indeed the KCB group has been looking at this issue, is around how do we have philanthropic capital being used as catalytic capital. So how do we have this finance that is primarily grants or primarily developmental in nature? How do we use it to spur either private sector or public sector capital in the country? And one of the most exciting things when we talk about social services, when we talk about things like ending multidimensional poverty, one of the most exciting things that can happen is if we look at counties as the engines for which jobs are going to be created in the country. And we all know that one of the biggest gateways towards achieving a lot of our socioeconomic rights is really the ability to have a job. So some of the exciting things that have been happening in this space involve the public sector meets private sector partnerships that spur job creation at the county level. And one of the most recent things that really speaks towards this work is joint investment as well as delivery platforms that support county level job growth, as I said. And It helps if you think of this in three things. In terms of one of the things we're very clear about is that we have to finance the workforce. And counties are stepping forward to do this thing where they are partnering with, for instance, KCB Foundation to make sure that they put in matching funds. KCB Foundation puts in matching funds to make sure that we're able to rekit as well as to retool the workforce, and not just the workforce of today, but also the workforce of the future. Beyond that, the other thing that counties are also doing is partnering with private sector. So in this case, let me say KCB Bank, to make sure that when it comes to enterprise development, we're able to really have counties putting funds primarily through the Fund Management Act that was passed that allows counties to set up MSME funds to support the enterprises in their counties. So through this, you're being able to see how public sector meets private sector is able to really spur the growth as well as the development and the catalyzing of enterprises in the county. And the third thing that is really most exciting in terms of what the counties can also leverage on is the ability to have value chain or ecosystem development in their counties, where let's say your CIDP identifies 5, 6 priority value chains. What has been happening is where private sector comes in to really leverage on these opportunities and work with the counties end-to-end financing. So for instance, KCB Bank does this. You're then now able to see job creation, you're able to see workforce creation, and you're also able to see enterprise development. And if I was to summarize in terms of the three things that are perhaps important to take home with you, is that when you leverage on philanthropic capital as catalytic capital, you're then now able to deliver large scale as well as very visible economic development in your counties. The other thing is you're also then now able to leverage private sector capital alongside county budgets as well as also what development partners may have. And thirdly, you're able to create durable jobs, you're able to create thriving local economies as well as local industries without having to reinvent the wheel. So in summary, this is around jobs now. So being able to co-invest in skills and job placements that really match the county ambitions. It's also around money that moves. So being able to have end-to-end financing for value chains, so from production as well as market, and then growth with market. So we're talking about MSMEs that are backed with capital, technical assistance, and guaranteed buyers. And ultimately, the hope is, or the plan is, when you have jobs in the county, thriving MSMEs in the counties, multidimensional poverty becomes now something that is eradicated because we're now looking at multidimensional opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's no longer alternative financing, it's mainstreaming philanthropic sources of resources and finances into the public sector funding systems. Thank you so much, Madam Medi. I want to remind you the disclaimer that the next speaker is going to respond on behalf of the private sector, but she doesn't come from the private sector. And my question goes to you, Wangui Karanja. You have already prepared responses for the purposes of record and the audience as well. Kenya is facing a paradox of expanding spending needs and a reduced physical space to provide essential services like health, education, social protection, and water. Debt is taking a large portion of ordinary revenue, with about 6 out of every 10 shillings collected being spent on debt repayment. The public wage take about 25% of our annual budgets, and this means that the government must partner more with the private sector and seek innovative, or what we call alternative finance, to provide services. Now, Kenya seems to be performing better in PPPs, that is public-private partnerships on infrastructure and energy, but with lesser success on PPPs in social sectors like health, education, and social protection. So I have two questions that I would like you to address for the panelists to benefit from your thoughts on what potential exists for the government of Kenya to tap more on PPPs in social sectors like health, education, or any other subcomponent of social protection or social sector you may want to address. And two, from a private sector perspective, what are some of the factors that the government of Kenya could put in place to attract more private sector partnership and financing for social sectors. Over to you, Madam Wangui.
Thank you, moderator and esteemed panelists. As mentioned, I'm reading this response or on behalf of Anthony Mwangi, who was not able to be with us. So as a representative from the private sector, particularly from the vibrant ecosystem of micro, small, and medium enterprises that form the backbone of Kenya's economy, I am delighted to contribute to this discussion on financing social sectors amid fiscal challenges. To set the stage, let's begin with a high-level overview of Kenya's success in public-private partnerships within the social sectors. While Kenya has excelled in infrastructure, energy PPPs, we are seeing a growing momentum in health, education, social protection, and WASH. And some examples follow here. In health, the National Equipment Services Project has recently been launched. This initiative aims to equip hospitals throughout Kenya with state-of-the-art diagnostic and treatment technologies, ensuring their accessibility to all Kenyans. In July 2025, launch of a PPP at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospitals, College of Health Sciences, revolutionizing medical training, fostering skilled healthcare professionals. This innovation project aims to address the critical shortage of health workers in Kenya by providing modern and well-equipped facilities for quality education, training, and student well-being. In education, July 2025 launched PPP at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospitals, College of Health Sciences, revolutionizing medical. Okay, I think that is repeated. 1 second, please. Yes, that is repeated. So I'll move to WASH and social protection. According to water.org, Kenya, with a population of 54 million, 15 million Kenyans lack access to safe water and 37 million lack access to safe toilets. Growing water demand and water scarcity have become a notable challenge in Kenya. Climate change and population growth, urbanization, water pollution, and poor management of water resources have aggravated the issue of water crisis, which affects economic activities, food security, and education, as well as health. Now, addressing the first question, what potential exists for the government of Kenya to tap more into PPPs in these social sectors? The untapped potential is immense, especially if we broaden our view of private sector beyond large corporations to include MSMEs. MSMEs constitute over 90% of Kenya's businesses, contribute to 40% of GDP, and generate 80% of new jobs. These enterprises often are often innovative startups and community-based firms, bringing agility and local relevance that form PPPs, that formal PPPs sometimes lack. Rather than focusing solely on big ticket projects under the PPPs Act of 2021, the government of Kenya should embrace a broader partnership perspective, including hybrid and informal models that drive outcomes in health, education, social protection, and WASH. Some examples of these: food for education, which is in the education and health sectors. They are scalable models partnering with county governments, parents, private donors to deliver nutritious meals to over 500,000 children daily across 15 counties in 1,900 schools. This boosts attendance by 10%, enrollment by 20% in some areas, and national exam performance.
addresses child multidimensional poverty. Chiporobo Center is another example. This is under education, a startup co-founded in 2023, collaborates with public high schools to enhance STEM education via robots and AI training. It has impacted over 10,000 schools in the last 2 years, scaling up 100,000 through scaling to 100,000 through partnerships with Microsoft Africa Development Center and Ekitabu. Currently, 100 students are in boot camp at Microsoft ADC, fostering innovation and employability. These models, outside the formal PPP framework, show how MSMEs can integrate with public entities for great impact, potentially mobilizing billions in alternative financing while aligning with SDGs like no poverty and education and quality education. There's also Synergy. Synergy is in the wash sector. Kenya faces significant challenges in sanitation, with Synergy reporting that the country loses 2% of its GDP annually due to illness-related productivity losses. At current pace, achieving complete sanitation coverage could take 150 years. Synergy offers non-sewered sanitation solutions for urban residents that are 5 times more affordable than traditional sewer systems. In social protection, there are hybrid approaches like social impact bonds, could tie payments to verified poverty reduction. Village Enterprise DIB in Kenya and Uganda lifted household assets by 13.5% to over 13,800 people. These illustrate how PPPs, hybrids with philanthropy and impact investors can accelerate Kenya's progress, especially for 12 million children in poverty. Turning to the second question, from a private sector perspective, what factors could the government of Kenya put in place to attract more partnerships and financing? Number one, streamline regulations beyond the formal PPP framework, include flexible incentives to MSMEs. Examples of this is tax breaks on social investments, viability gap funding for outcome-based models, expedited approvals via PPP Directorate's Project Facilitation Fund, which will reduce timelines from months to weeks. Number two, enhance risk sharing through blended finance. Public grants de-risk projects for private players. And examples of these are Ghana's WASH initiatives, which mobilized 50 million euros. Number three, build capacity and dialogue platforms, expand ministerial stakeholder forums to involve MSMEs in co-designing initiatives, ensuring transparency and corruption-free procurement. To prioritize impact. Number four, prioritize impact metrics over inputs, adapt SIB, an SIB-like structure where payments reward results, attracting philanthropies like KCB Foundation and investors seeking SDG-aligned returns. Incentivizing models like food for education could scale nutrition programs nationally. Supporting Chiporobo partnership could embed AI in curricula for equitable STEM access. Ultimately, by viewing the private sector holistically, including our 7.4 million MSMEs, the government of Kenya can turn fiscal constraints into collaborative opportunities, fostering innovation that sustains equity and inclusion for generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We want to thank Anthony who has made that submissions. He is the CEO and founder of Visible Industries. And asante sana, Ongoi, for fitting into the shoes of Anthony. At this moment, because of time, I will allow each of the panelists to summarize their thoughts, reflections in less than 5 words, so that, you know, as we say, if you don't remember everything else I said, there will be 1, 2, 3 things I want you to take home with yourself. I'll start with Mendy, or whichever order, but I would prefer Mendy to begin. Okay, PS, you ready? Can you use this?
So my take homes are 3 things. A good, well-structured county meets private sector meets philanthropy model is able to deliver on 3 very key things. It can deliver on jobs. It can deliver on jobs now. It can also deliver on money that moves. So end-to-end financing. It can also deliver on growth with markets. And together, this financing is able to jumpstart workforce development in counties. It's able to jumpstart value chains that are aligned to CIDPs, and it's able to deliver private sector financing for all MSMEs that these value chains are supported by. And this is something KCB Foundation, as well as the KCB Group, has been proudly partnering with counties. We have over 29 counties in partnerships, as well as creating jobs. So we're about 150,000 jobs created just in the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mendy, for that. PS, Madam PS, less than 5 words.
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to say that for sustainability in terms of financing, social sector, one of the things that we need to have is a coordinated approach to partnering both the having a collaboration between the county government and the national government. We saw how fragmenting approach is leading to fragmenting also our resources. Therefore, for us to target our resources to reach the social needy and the vulnerable communities, we need to have a coordinated approach both at the county level and also at the national level. The next that I would recommend would be to ring-fence the budget allocation and also come up with alternative ways of raising funds when it comes to mobilization of funds. We do have companies that are having probably negative impact when it comes to issues of nutrition. We could tap into a percentage of the income of this private sector in bringing on board additional funding that can fund the child welfare fund, which is already in place but not operationalized, for us to be able to reach the vulnerable children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking Madam P.S. Colleen Ogengo. We also have Madam Mendy Jonjo, Anthony Mwangi in absentia, and Madam Wangoi Karanja, who fit into this panel. What an esteemed panel, distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much, and allow me to give them a standing ovation because it's a very powerful panel of ladies, eminent ladies. At this moment, I'm going to invite you for a headshot. The panelists, the headshot. Okay. And you shall remain standing as I invite the following. We have Dr. Elda Osunu, DG, Kipra, We also have Dr. McDonald Obudo as well. You come to the stage so that you join the team. We have Professor Paul Wachana, the chair of the board, and a representative of His Excellency Peter Nyangnyong, please join. Gabi as well, please join. PS, I know he has left. PS, Dr. Boniface, a representative, but the DG is here. We have some goodies for these eminent, distinguished guests who have made this event possible. I'll ask Denge or is it Wangoi so that we can pass the gifts to them. No envelopes. It has to be a bag or something. Okay, thank you so much for representing. Okay. I was told they were enough, so I called everyone. Wow. Okay. They're very nice bags, very nice bags. We shall remember the UNICEF, we remember the UN Women, we remember the KNBS. Thank you so much for making it possible. The two publications. Very well. We need to transfer all the notes into those hardcover books and notebooks as well. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we're just going to have the last headshot, right? Okay, there we go. Going to have the last headshot. I'll join. Now you go. Okay. As we allow the guests to take their seats, we have come to the end of this important side event, educative, informative event, financing social sectors for equity and inclusion, brought to you by UNICEF, the World Bank, KIPLA, KNBS, and the UN Women. And we are so grateful that you have received quite a lot of information from this session. Our apologies, we couldn't have opened this to the plenary so that you could ask questions, but we're encouraging you, if you have any comments, any concerns, any questions, please forward those to the technical team, whether it is COG, whether it is UNICEF, whether it is myself, and we'll be able to collate all those, put them together, and respond to you. We come to the end of this session, and allow me to invite Wangoi Karanja, who is the chief of the UNICEF Kisumu Field Office, to give a vote of thanks, and from there, she'll direct us what next. Asante sana. Karibu, Madam Wangoi Karanja.
Thank you. So I will ride on the protocols that had been mentioned this morning, but good morning to all the delegates in the room. We've come to the close of this powerful and insightful session, and I trust that we will take a moment to reflect on the rich discussions that we've had this morning from our esteemed panelists, from those who spoke, from Governor Nyong'o, who left us a little bit earlier. We've heard about the compelling evidence and perspectives on urgent need to strengthen financing for social sectors, particularly health, nutrition, education, child protection, and social protection at a devolved level. The call to action was very clear. If equity and inclusion are to be achieved, we must invest smarter, guided by data, driven by the lived experiences and realities of our communities. The solutions are within reach. I think very quickly to summarize that, we need to invest in the early childhood development for inclusive growth, expand social protection programs to reduce child poverty and build human capital in Kenya, enhance intergovernmental coordination and financing synergies to expand fiscal space, to accelerate poverty reduction, particularly for children, women and youth, and persons with disabilities. So let's take these resolutions forward with renewed commitment and urgency. And on behalf of UNICEF and our co-organizers, KIPRA, the World Bank, UN Women, I want to extend our deepest gratitude to all who have made this session a success, our distinguished panelists and speakers, the PA State Department for Economic Planning, Acting KIPRA Executive Director, Dr. Elda, our Chief of Social Policy, Dr. Gabi, PS Welfare Social Services, Karen, His Excellency Governor Nyong'o, Ms. Mendi Njonjo, Anthony Mwangi in absentia. Thank you for your leadership, your rich contributions, and your unwavering dedication to inclusive development. Our moderator, Paul Courier, thank you so much. Thank you for you skillfully guiding the conversation and ensuring everybody's voice was heard. Our development partners, Conrad Hilton Foundation, Porticus Foundation, the government of Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden, and the United Kingdom, thank you for your continued support and solidarity, and also to the delegates in the room and those who joined online. Thank you for your engagement, your well, there were no questions, unfortunately, but our commitment, I know there'll be joint commitment to take some of these important matters, issues, points discussed forward. Thank you very much. Also to the technical team, the organizers, we thank you for providing this great space and for supporting the event to ensure that we can deliver messages that inform actions that change lives and save children. I hope I leave here, we all leave here informed and inspired, and that no child, no woman, no community will be left behind. Thank you very much, and good morning.
Asante.
Tonight. You are watching Sound Candy Talk live. Sound Candy Talk live news.